would welcome. I was lost, but he brought me. Oh, his love for me. Oh, his love for me.
Oh, the sun sets free. Oh, his free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am.
His grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. My Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Oh, I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I
Lift your hands with us this morning as we sing this out. Be chosen.
I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Oh, I am who you say I am. The Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah, yeah. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. No shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Tell them again, church, no shadow. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear teaching of Jesus. Think about what it means to think about that shepherd that would leave the 99 sheep on the hill, that would come after the one. Close your eyes with me for a minute. Let's just think about that for a second. What it looked like. At some point in your life, you were that one. Maybe right now, you are that one. Jesus would leave the 99 behind because he says that when one new soul will join the kingdom of heaven, like we saw 3 new souls this morning, there will be more rejoicing than any of those 99 already there. And it's not that they weren't worth it. Everyone is worth it. It's that because everyone is worth it, we have to get that one and bring them home. Let's lift our voice. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Let's pray while we have our eyes closed while we're in this moment together. Lord, thank you for your goodness, for your grace, for your mercy, for your love. Your love that said, even though we were lost, even though we were the one that had wandered off, we were so worth it that you would come after us and pursue us to bring us home, Lord. We thank you for that, King Jesus, mighty, wonderful King, for bringing us home today, Lord. And for those of us still trying to find our way home, Lord, our prayer today is that you would come on them in a new way, in a new and powerful way, so that anyone looking for their way doesn't have to look anymore, that they will come home with you, Jesus. And it's in your name we pray. Amen.
I love that song because there's 2 huge major truths from that song. One is that God is so good. He's a good God. And the other truth is, and you're so worth it to him. You are. We are. The extent of God's love for us is that he sent his son Jesus. That's a reckless thing to do. That's the most loving thing anyone has ever done for you, for all of humanity. That song gets me every time. Welcome to Church of the Crossroads. My name is John Parkey. I'm the lead pastor here. And we're starting a new series today called Tweak, not Twerk. That's a Miley Cyrus dance. Tweak. The definition of tweak is this: making small adjustments or to fine tune. So there are some things in our lives that maybe, the intent of this series is there are some things in our lives that maybe aren't bad, but could be better. Like there are things that aren't bad, but unless we make some slight adjustments over time, they probably will get worse. So we don't need there are areas of our lives that don't need a complete overhaul or need to be completely scrapped. They just need some fine tuning. So the title of this sermon series is Tweak. It's the little things. And so for the next 6 weeks, we're going to be talking about making tweaks in our work and how we work, in our use of time, in our parenting, in our finances. So areas of our lives that could just use some minor adjustments, and hopefully will become more healthy, and I believe adjustments that will help us grow in Jesus Christ. Tweaks that will be beneficial, tweaks that will help. So today we're going to talk about some tweaks that maybe we need to make in marriage. So if your marriage is good but could use some spark, if your marriage is struggling or misfiring, if your marriage is not what you hoped or what you expected, if you're feeling disconnected or discouraged in your marriage, whatever it may be, my hope is that in some way what we talk about today will help, be beneficial, or maybe even give you a new place to start. Maybe it will even be something that if you and your spouse are here today together, you can go home and this sermon will be the beginning of a conversation that you've needed to have for a long time. That's kind of the intent. So I also want you to know that I'm going to be speaking from experience for this entire sermon. From the beginning of this church, right, my wife and I have chosen to be honest and be vulnerable about the fact that we don't, in our marriage, as individuals even, but together in our marriage, we don't have it all together. We've not been secret about that. We've come a long way in 25 years of marriage, but we're in the struggle with you when it comes to marriage. So we argue. We've had seasons where we didn't love each other very well. We've had seasons where we wondered if we were going to make it. So our 25 years of marriage haven't all been very, very easy. But at the same time, we've done some very difficult work, and we've sought out some much needed help and wisdom from some people much wiser than us, and we've even gone to counseling from time to time to be coached through certain struggles or troubles we've had. So we've struggled, but at the same time we've fought for our marriage. So with all of that, what I want to do today is, and in this entire series with each sermon each topic we're going to address is, I want to give you today a bunch of little tweaks that you could make, and it's going to be a long list of tweaks. But I wouldn't expect you to leave here today and make all of those this afternoon or tomorrow. Like the one thing I want to encourage you to do is, as we go down the list, when we're done, what's the one thing out of this whole list? What's the one thing you could take and begin doing or thinking today or this week? Don't dismiss all of them, but I wouldn't expect you to apply all of those or get overwhelmed by the entire list. Okay? Now that I've prepared you ahead of time, let's talk marriage. Over the course of my marriage with Val, I've adjusted and I've made some tweaks to become a better husband. There were small, little, fine-tuned changes that didn't fix our marriage, but they helped make our marriage more loving and unifying. For example, listen to this, right? I'm a slob. Right? By nature, just personally, I'm a slob. I'm a dude, and there are things that I could care less about, right? So, like when we got married, she married a slob, and there are things that I don't care about. One of those things was the toilet paper on the roll, right? So for me, I would just, if I ran out of toilet paper, I would just get another roll. I would leave the empty roll on the roll, and I would just, when I was done, I know this is too much information, but deal with it, I would just leave the other roll on the floor. Or even better, sometimes I would set it on top of the empty roll, right, for convenience for her when it was her turn. So if I would run out of paper, I would just, and Val then, in our marriage early on, would say, honey, would you please throw the empty roll away and put the new roll on the roller, right? And for me, early on, that was annoying. It was annoying that she would ask me that, and I don't think I ever said this out loud, but I thought it. I thought this, like, if that's the way you like it, then you fix it. I don't care, right? And that mentally does not work that does not work in marriage very well. I found that out quickly. And so today, 25 years later, I'm happy to tell you that I now not only replace the empty roll with a full roll on the roller, I will also arrange the toilet paper so that it rolls over the top. Right? Because it's handy that way. I learned from Val, right? You don't have to reach up and under and find the next sheet of toilet paper. So I've tweaked my mode of operation when it comes to toilet paper, and my wife loves me now more than ever because I do that. Like, our marriage is incredible because I do that. Just kidding. Here's another example. Like, there are times when Val and I've also learned how to listen well. and even decipher what Val is saying at any given moment. For example, there are times when, like in the evenings, we're sitting in bed and we're watching TV and we're winding down for the evening. And early on in our marriage, there were times where Val would ask me while we're laying in bed, "Hey, are you hot?" And for me, my answer in the moment was, no, but thanks for asking, thanks for considering. What I've learned is that's not really what she was asking. Like, her question wasn't really a concern for my comfort and temperature. What she was really saying was, would you go turn down the thermostat, right? And so I didn't know that in the beginning. Now she says, "Hey, are you hot?" I don't give a verbal response. I get out of bed and I walk to the thermostat, right? Or she says, "Hey, are you thirsty?" That's not a question. She's not concerned about my thirst. She wants a cold drink of water, so I'll go get it. My response is, go get her a cup of. Yeah, there are times in the mornings, like when I'm getting ready for church, or I'm getting dressed for the day, or we're going out on a date, and I'll put my clothes on, and she'll go, "Hey, are you wearing that?" Like I've already got it on. But my answer is, nope, just seeing if it still fits, right? That's just not what I'm wearing tonight. That's just, so I've tweaked the way I respond to her, right? And those are some versions of maybe some silly little tweaks that I've made in our marriage. There's another tweak to consider. This isn't part of the major list I'm going to share with you in just a minute, but Arizona State University research found that married couples who were instructed to kiss frequently, who were instructed to kiss daily, in fact, reported less stress and more relationship satisfaction. And also, listen to this, if you kiss every day, this is what the researchers found out, it also caused a decrease in cholesterol levels. There you go. Like one kiss every day, and you can eat all the fried food that you want the rest of the day. So just tweak, right? Tweak some little things. It's the little things that make all the difference in the world, right? So let me take you a little deeper and kind of get into some tweaks of when it comes to our marriage, there are things that we do or don't do that might need to get tweaked a little bit, or there are things that we think or don't think that may need to get tweaked just a little bit. So I want to bring you back to some of these ideas. You've heard these before. Most of them are not new. Some of them may be brand new to you. I don't know. But here's the first tweak in our thinking, and this is you've heard this before, okay? Here's the first tweak. Marriage is for life. Some of us need to be reminded of that, right? And this is not a new thought or new idea. It's as old as time. It's an idea that dates back to the very first marriage, Adam and Eve. But sometimes we need to be reminded of this, because sometimes in our marriage, we get so frustrated, or we get so bitter, it causes us to dream about something different, a different spouse, a better marriage, a new start, greener pastures. And sometimes our thought life regarding our marriage needs to be brought back to our wedding vows, right? And our wedding vows, I don't know if you know this, when we get married, when you stand before a preacher and you make your vows, what you are doing is you are making a covenant with your spouse, and you and your spouse together are making a covenant with God, because marriage was God's original idea. So it's a covenant. Do you know the difference between a contract and a covenant? A contract is, a contract says, if you do this, I will do this. Like, you do this, and I will, in response, do that. So a contract can be broken. A covenant, though, is different. A covenant is not saying, if you do this, I'll do that. A covenant is me saying to my wife, I will choose to be a benefit to you in your life no matter what. Even if I'm not getting the love from you that I think I deserve, or the love from you that I want, in this covenant, I am still for you, I am going to stay with you, and I will try to benefit you no matter what. That's a covenant. And there's a big difference. I promise to be a benefit for you. That's a covenant is saying I want to benefit the other person even when I'm not feeling it. It's a permanent deal that can't be broken. Matthew 19:6, Jesus goes back to Genesis. He quotes Genesis, and then he adds to it. He says, so they are, when it comes to marriage, the husband and spouse, they are no longer two, but one flesh. And then Jesus adds this, therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate. So marriage is God's idea meant for lifelong covenant, unconditional love. And some of us here today just maybe need to be reminded of that, like our vows, for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, for sickness, for health. So I'm here. What we're saying when we got married is, I'm here. I'm going to stick with you through thick and thin. That's kind of tweak number one, just something to maybe we need to be reminded of that. Here's another tweak. Your spouse is not like you, but he or she is of equal value to you. All right? Men and women are just wired differently by God. Like, how many of you guys have thought, why does she do that? Why does she say those things? Like why does she think like this? Why? Because she's a woman, and that's the way God wired her. Some of you wives are like, why does he struggle with that? Why didn't he do it this way, right? Why didn't he ask for directions? Because he's a guy, right? That's just the answer, because God has wired us differently. Why has he wired us differently? Not to frustrate you and make your life miserable, even though sometimes as spouses our differences do drive us crazy, but that's not why God made us different. He made us each different in our own unique way because our differences make for a good team. Like, where I am weak, my wife is strong. Where my wife is weak, I am strong. And so I share this tweak because some of us might need to be reminded and tweak our thinking on this so that rather than despise the fact that she doesn't do it the way you'd like for her to do it, or he doesn't do it the way you'd like for him to do it, you can embrace their uniqueness. And we need to do that. I also share this with you because in our differences, sometimes we begin to think that we're the superior one in our marriage. Like we know the right way, or we know the best way, and he or she is sometimes in our unspoken body language or roll of the eyes, or sometimes we feel superior and we make our spouse feel like they're the idiot. And that's unloving. And that is inconsiderate and undermining of how God has wired your spouse. Like when Val and I got married 25 years ago, all of my life, listen to this, when we got married, all of my life, I was told that I was the man, right? By my parents, by my coaches, by my teammates, not so much my teachers, but by just about everybody else around me, I was told that I was the man. Now, so then when we got married, and in some ways I was very successful, especially athletically, and I worked hard at the things I was good at, and here's the other reason, I didn't take very many risks that I thought I might fail in. And so in most of the things that I did, I was pretty talented and pretty successful in a lot of what I did, especially athletically. So because of all of that, do you know what my attitude was when I married Val? Yeah, my attitude with Val was, you're a lucky girl. That's proud and arrogant, right? Like I was superior, and in my mind, I don't think I ever said that out loud, but man, I sure acted like it often, and that caused a lot of trouble in our marriage. And it wouldn't have caused trouble if Val would have just said, yeah, you're the best. Tell me what to do, and I'll do everything you ask me to do, right? But she wasn't having it. She wasn't wired like that. She wasn't going to let me get away with that. God designed men and women to have different roles in the marriage and family, with the husband as the leader. But just because he's, by God, given the role of leader, it doesn't make him more important. Like, the roles have equal value. The husband, even though he is created and assigned the leader by God, that assignment means he is to oversee his family and he is to model servant leadership. Like his role as the leader is to love his wife, meaning serve his wife humbly. Ephesians 5:21-28 says, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Wives, Submit to your own husbands as you do the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. Listen to this. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and what? Gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with the water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church, without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In this way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. Like in our marriage, we're different, with different roles, but both equal value. We're different, and we're different because we're supposed to complement one another. It's a humble love, and this is the beauty of marriage if we can get there. Both parties, husband and wife, both humbly serve, both humbly die to themselves in order to benefit the other. Like pride and superiority has no place in marriage. So this might be a tweak you need to make if to this point you've been seeing yourself as better than your spouse. Here's one more verse around this idea. Philippians 2:3-4 says this: do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves. Probably first and foremost, your spouse. Not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. So your spouse is not like you, but he or she is of equal value. That's a tweak in thinking you might need to make. Here's another one. Sex. Let's talk about sex for a minute. Sex can lead to intimacy, but sex isn't always the solution to intimacy problems. Like, have you heard these commercials are all over the radio? They're starting to be all over TV. Have you heard these commercials for like these men's clinics? You know what I'm talking about? They'll say in the commercial something like this: men, are you having intimacy issues? If you are, make an appointment with our clinic. You can take this pill or have this shot, and we'll solve all of your intimacy problems, okay? Now, that's strictly a medical solution for your problems in the bedroom, all right? Now, it's sort of a misuse, in those commercials, it's sort of a misuse of the word intimacy, though. Sex can be a part of intimacy, but sex doesn't always equal intimacy. Sex isn't always the solution. Matter of fact, I might say it's rarely a solution to intimacy problems. Because here's the definition of intimacy. Intimacy is knowing about someone deeply and being completely free in that person's presence. Like, intimacy is less sexual and it's more relational. Like, intimacy is giving yourself to another person freely. Sex is included in that, but so is everything else. Like, it's sharing with your spouse, it's sharing your deepest secrets, your fears, your desires. It's feeling close enough to your spouse and safe enough with your spouse to share what's going on in your mind and in your heart without the fear of rejection. And this is huge. Like, a pill cannot fix intimacy problems. You know what does? Vulnerability and transparency. So this took me a long time to understand in our marriage, like too long. I thought for me, if I shared my weaknesses or if I shared my fears or my failures, my wife wouldn't love me. She would see me in a different light. I thought maybe she would see me as a failure or a weakling. And I was honestly, growing up, I was never taught how to communicate with someone in an intimate way. And I don't have time today to get into all the ways that I've learned about intimacy, but here's a few tweaks I've made as I've learned what intimacy is and how intimacy should work out in our marriage. Here's a few tweaks I've made. From time to time, I will ask Val, how are we doing? How are we doing? How are you feeling about us? Like, in your mind, how are things with us? Or I'll ask her, do you feel close to me? Or I'll ask, how can I love you better? Or I'll ask, how can I serve you? Sometimes I might even ask, what is it about me that annoys you, right? And those are loaded questions. And I don't always like the answers. But I want to give her permission to speak freely and share herself with me. I want to be safe for her. And so I'll listen, and I'll try not to argue. And I'll try not to get offended, because she feels how she feels. And I need to know how she feels. Like, I need to know what's going on in her heart and in her mind. And sometimes I'll hear something and I'll make adjustments based on her response. I'll make tweaks. When she shares those things with me, I try not to blame her or fight with her. Sometimes I'll even ask follow-up questions like, why do you feel this way? Because I want to know. Because I want to know. Because I need to know. And at times, she'll do the same for me. Why do we do that? Because, listen to this, because to avoid asking those questions is saying to your spouse, I don't want to know. I don't want to know, and I don't want to grow in intimacy with you. So the question is, are you being vulnerable and transparent with your spouse? Is your marriage a safe place where you can share yourself? It needs to be. Your marriage should be the safest place in the world for you both. That's the point of marriage. Here's another tweak you might make, and something you might need to know and to help you think differently. Your spouse is not the enemy. Your spouse is not the enemy. Now, I would guess that right now there are many marriages represented here who are currently either in a minor tiff, in a big fight, or you just can't stand each other right now. Like, you don't even want to be sitting beside each other right now. Things are kind of rough, or things are extremely bad, and look, Val and I have been on both ends and all over that spectrum of not getting along, little tiffs, big fights, right? 10 years ago or so, my wife and I we had got to this place where we were kind of hung up and couldn't move. There was something we couldn't get past, and so we went to a counselor. We went to sit down with someone who would coach us through and help us get past this hang up. And one of the things that we do is when we get hung up, we don't just try to fake our way through it or hope it'll go away. We tackle it. We deal with it. And so we jumped right into counseling again. And so at this counseling session, I was sitting, it was kind of my turn to share, and I was sitting with our counselor, and I'm venting about my problems with Val, and it was very selfish, like she's the problem, and it's her issues, and my pain. And the counselor stops me mid-sentence, and he looks at me, and he says, John, your wife is not the enemy. Val is not the enemy. You know that, right? And in my mind, I thought, no, not until just right now as you said that, did I ever think of it like that. She's not the enemy. Something about that moment shook me awake. It kind of tweaked my view of my wife. Listen, your spouse is not the enemy. He was right. Even though sometimes it might feel like it, your spouse is not the enemy. Your spouse is your teammate. Your spouse is your battle partner in this life. Like, you weren't meant to fight your spouse. You were meant to fight for your spouse. Big difference. Because in this life, when it comes to your marriage, there is only one enemy. And that enemy has waged war against you, and that enemy has waged war against your marriage. And his strategy is to bust up and divide your marriage. Like, make you, his MO is to make you see your spouse as the enemy. He's called the devil, or Satan. 1 Peter 5:8 says this about him. It says, be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. Maybe we replace that, looking for a marriage to devour. John 8:44 says this about Satan. Jesus says this about him. It says, when Satan lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and he is the father of lies. Satan wants you to believe the lie that your spouse is the enemy. Fight that lie. Like if you're married, your spouse is not the enemy. There is an enemy. There is someone or something greater than your spouse at work in your marriage trying to bust it up, and it's Satan. He's the real enemy. Fight him. Here's another one that's kind of like it. Your spouse is not the enemy. Here's another one. Here's another tweak. Your spouse is not your savior, and you are not the savior of your spouse. Here's what I mean by that. One thing that's pretty normal in marriage is oftentimes people will marry someone with a lot of problems thinking that, you know what, once we get married, I'll fix them. Like once we get married, they'll change, I'll change them. And a lot of times that's how and this was my problem, I thought if I married Val, she would fix me. I was a lot of problems. Like remember I talked about I had a lot of pride and arrogance, but underneath that pride and arrogance was a lot of insecurity, a lot of fear, right? A lot of low self-worth. And so I thought if I married Val, she would heal my wounds, she would stop my desire to sin, and she would make me a better man. Now, it would sound very romantic for me to say, and she saved me. Val fixed me, but she didn't. And I didn't fix her. Matter of fact, marriage might help ease some of your pains or ease maybe some of your desires to sin or make you a little bit better. But here's the deal. More often, though, and more likely is marriage doesn't fix you. Marriage shines a light on your weaknesses and your problems. Like marriage exposes your problems and makes them obvious. It's unrealistic for you to think you can fix your spouse. It's unrealistic to think your spouse can fix you. Like that's not your job in marriage to fix each other. Like my job is to love my wife while Christ does the fixing, changing, and healing. Her job is to love me like Christ and point me to Christ, the one who can fix and heal and change. Like we're not the savior of our spouse. I'm not the one who died on the cross and 3 days later resurrected from the grave. I don't have the power to change. I don't have the power to transform anyone's life, including my spouse. But I know the one who can. So it's not my job to fix. It's not my job to change or save my spouse. So the tweak is, don't try to change your spouse. Just love them with hopes that they see Christ in your grace and as you speak truth to them. And this is a tough tweak to make. Very tough tweak to make because many of us so badly want our spouse to come to know Christ. Or many of us so badly wish for our spouse to give us the love that we desire them to give us. And for some of us, we long for love from them, but here's the deal. You can't force them to love you. And a lot of us try to. We try to control them. We try to keep them in line because we think if we can control them, they will give us the love that we want, but you can't force them to love you or give you the love that you desire. So what we do is we look to Christ alone to fill up our empty hearts, and we look to him alone and trust that he will do his work in our spouse. I'm not the savior of my spouse. My spouse is not my savior. Here's another tweak. When it comes to change in your marriage, be the first. Be the first to change. I read this book a few years ago by a guy named Gary Thomas. The book was entitled Sacred Marriage, and it stepped all over my toes. And the premise of the book is this: God designed marriage to make us holy more than to make us happy. Like we all want to be happy, right? But in order to be happy, our spouse has to change. Like, in order for me to be happy, I need you to do this, 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 pick up this, shut this, put the toilet paper on the right way. Like we want to be happy, and in order for us to be happy, our spouse has to change. But that's not healthy, and that's not possible fully. So what if marriage was more intended to change you? Like, to make you more loving, to teach you to love unconditionally in the way that Christ unconditionally loves you. If we approach marriage in that way, that changes how then we approach our spouse. Like, rather than expecting my wife to change in order to please me, I become a student first and foremost of Jesus Christ, and then I become a student of my wife so that I change and grow into a husband that gives her the love that she needs. When it comes to marriage, when it comes to change, be the first. Philippians 1 verse 6 says, Jesus, or God, who began a good work in you, will carry it on to completion until the day of Jesus Christ. So God's shaping us, God transforming us, God changing us. He's always at work on us, in us, until the day we die. There are always changes that we need to make. So to make this tweak means to stop blaming your spouse and start owning your responsibility for the problems that are in your marriage. It means you doing the work to change and allowing Christ to change you for the better. In your troubles or in your marriage crisis, it means you ask yourself in the middle of that crisis, how do I need to respond in love here? What do I need to learn from this? What changes do I need to make, and what kind of help do I need in order to change? Like, it's less about your spouse changing and more about God changing and shaping you through your marriage. Big difference in how we approach our spouse and expect our spouse based on this. Here's the final tweak. Your marriage will only grow in as much as you grow in Jesus Christ. It's all about Jesus having all of you. And the tweak is keep Jesus in the center of your life. Study the Word. Study the life and the teachings of Jesus, and then begin to live it out. Begin to model it. Pray for your spouse. Pray for your marriage. Bring Christ into your marriage relationship and keep him at the center of your marriage. May your marriage be grounded in him and grow because of him. May you replace the toilet paper, close the shower curtain, pick up after yourself, and make Christ the center. Tweaks to make for a healthy, God-honoring marriage. Which one do you need to tweak? What tweaks do you need to make based on what you've seen, based on what we've talked about this morning? That's the question. Don't just stew on it and go, oh, that was a good sermon. My challenge is for you personally. Don't think about for your spouse. Yeah, she needs to make that tweak. Yeah, I was thinking about this for her. Yeah. I highlighted this one for you. Don't do that for you in your marriage. What tweak do you need to make starting today, starting this week, for your marriage to be healthy, God-honoring, and for you to love your spouse like never before? Let's pray. God, thank you for loving us and for teaching us how to love so that we do have a model for how to love our spouse. And I know in this room there are a lot of people who are like me, who have hurt their spouse, who have wounded their spouse, who have been the cause of problems in their marriage. And we've all done that. We've all said things we shouldn't. We've done things we shouldn't. So first of all, we thank you for your grace and your mercy and your forgiveness and the hope of heaven that even though we're sinners, we still have eternal life. At the same time, Father, I pray for healing in the marriages represented in this room. I pray for growth. I pray for growing in intimacy and intimate conversations. I pray that we once again can begin to look at our spouse in the eye and begin to think about them even when we're not together, and think through ways how to creatively serve them and love them and express our love physically and emotionally and verbally. Just help us to love one another like you love us. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
There on a cross they made for sinners. For every curse his blood atoned. One final breath and it was finished. But not the end we could have known. For the earth began to shake, and the veil was torn. What sacrifice was made as the heavens roll? All hail King Jesus. All hail the Lord of heaven and earth. All hail King Jesus. All hail the Savior of the world. There was a moment when the sky lit up, a flash of light breaking through, when all was lost and crossed eternity. The King of life was on the move. For in a dark, cold tomb, where our Lord was a babe, one miraculous breath would forever change. Oh, hail King Jesus. Oh, hail the Lord of heaven and earth. Oh, hail King Jesus. time, let's lift our voices. Oh, hail King Jesus. Oh, hail the Lord of heaven and earth. Oh, hail King Jesus. Oh, hail the Savior of the world. I feel it in my bones, you're about to move. I feel it in the wind, you're about to ride in. You said that you would pour your spirit out. You said that you would fall on sons and daughters. Oh yeah. Lord, we invite your presence here this morning. I feel it in my bones, you're about to move. I feel it in the wind, you're about to ride in. You said that you would pour your spirit out. You said that you would fall on sons and daughters. So like the rain, come to drench us in love. And let your glory rush in like a flood. 'Cause we are fixed on this one thing, to know your goodness and see your glory. And we're transformed by this one thing, to know your presence and see your beauty. I can see it now, kingdom come. I can hear it now, the sounds of heaven. And if we ask, we'll receive. So we ask for the greater measure. So like the rain, come drench us in love. Let your power rush in like a flood. 'Cause we are fixed on this one thing, to know your goodness and see your glory. We're transformed by this one thing, to know your presence and see your beauty. We are fixed, and we are fixed on this one thing, to know your goodness and see your glory. We're transformed by this one thing, to know your presence and see your beauty. Close your eyes for me. We're going to invite the Spirit in this morning. I want you to focus on letting Him into your heart. So come and blow on through. Spirit, move. We're ready for you to come and blow on through. To come and do what only